Welcome to the show where truth takes the mic, where the world spins fast, but we hold it tight. This is the Howie Silbiger Show on True Talk Radio, where the real ones go. Oh, politics, passion, the news of the day, no filter, no fluff, just the Silbiger way. So buckle up tight, let the debates flow. This is your hour, the Howie Silbiger Show. Silbiger Show. Silbiger Show. Politics, passion, the news of the day, no filter, no fluff, just the Silbiger way. So buckle up tight, let the debates flow. This is your hour, the Howie Silbiger Show.
And welcome to the program. My name is Howie Silbiger. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that you're here with me to enjoy the show. There was a terror attack this week in New York. A man rammed his car into the front doors of the 770, which is Lubavitch headquarters in Crown Heights. Now, this is not an ordinary terror attack where some stranger just jumps in and destroys something, blows something up, rams his car into something. This was a little more complicated than that. The reason was that the man a few hours before was in 770 dancing with the Hasidim. He was in there dancing and mingling with the people he had tried to kill. Well, he came back a little later to try to kill. And one has to wonder, is this the new tactic of terror? Gain trust? Go into a synagogue, gain trust of the people in the synagogue, dance with them, sing with them, eat with them, break bread with them, and then come back a couple of hours later and destroy them? And if that is the new way that people are trying to kill Jews, how do we stop that? How do we back it up? How do we say we want to be safe? It's very strange to me that we as Jews cannot have the freedom of religion that everybody else has. A couple of last week, same time last week, just day before the attack on 770, a group of protesters went into a church in Minnesota and interrupted the service in the church in Minnesota. Now, churches, unlike synagogues, don't have security standing at the door. They don't have moats around their synagogues. They don't have armed snipers on the roof and $10 million security systems. They don't have the kind of protection that Jews must have these days. They have a church and a door. And a bunch of people walked in and broke up and protested the service. And they were arrested, and they were charged with various crimes for interrupting a religious service and impeding people's rights. When this happens in a Jewish synagogue, the same reaction isn't possible. It doesn't happen. We don't see massive arrests. We don't see people being carted away. We don't see journalists being charged. It seems like a double standard, if you ask me. The Jewish religion is the only religion that needs guards in front of their religious places of worship. I drive by 3 churches and 2 synagogues on my way to work every day. The synagogues all have guards. The churches don't. The mosque that I drive by does not have a guard at the door. Yet the synagogues have guards. The Jewish schools have guards. People standing outside, people inside and outside. Security cameras. It seems to me that just looking at the infrastructure that each religion had to build around their religious institutions, one could tell almost immediately which one is in imminent danger. It seems to me that looking at statistics, the Canadian statistics, and knowing that 84% of hate crimes committed in the country last year were committed against Jews, that there is a massive problem. Now, the problem doesn't stem from an underlying anti-Jewism that has existed in Canada since before World War II. That's not the problem. That has bubbled to the surface. This underlying hatred has bubbled to the surface. And we know it existed before, but it's just a little more obvious now. That's not where the problem lies. The problem lies with our leadership. The problem lies with our government. Mark Carney went to Davos, to the World Economic Summit at Davos, and gave a wonderful speech. He was lauded for the speech. All the lefties that I know were just beyond themselves praising this man for this wonderful speech. Now, in the speech, he talked about the New World Order. He talked about how dictatorships can't take hold, basically taking shot after shot at Donald Trump, who he declared a dictator without naming him. And that's what all the lefties loved, the fact that he attacked Trump. But what he also did in that speech was throw the Jewish community of Canada under the bus. Somewhere near the middle of the speech, Mark Carney announced that Canada has just created a strategic alliance with Qatar. Now, that might not sound so horrible. Canada makes strategic alliances with a lot of countries. Why would Qatar be horrible? But when we look at Qatar, we realize that Qatar funds 90% of world terrorism, that Qatar housed Hamas leadership, that Qatar continues to fund Hamas and help Hamas, then we realize that maybe, just maybe, we don't want our country, the country we live in, the country we pay taxes to, the government of the country that we live in, to have these kind of deals with countries that want to destroy our people, that support organizations that not only call for the killing of Jews in Israel, but call for the killing of Jews around the world. Hamas's charter explicitly calls to murder Jews wherever they live. So that means if you live in Canada, Hamas is coming after you. If you live in Europe, Hamas is coming after you. Hamas doesn't care where you live. Their goal is not to kill Israelis, not to liberate Palestine. Their goal is to kill Jews. Destroy as many Jews as possible. That's what their charter says. And I believe their charter. I have no reason to doubt them. Why would they lie to me? Why would they lie to each other? That's what they wrote in their charter. That's what they want to do. Now, I know there are a lot of people who don't want to admit that Hamas wants to kill Jews everywhere. And that's your prerogative. You could live in a bubble. You could live in you could hide under a rock if you want. But the reality of the situation is that Hamas wants to kill all Jews. And the reality of the situation is when they yell on the street, globalized intifada, they're calling for the murder and the attack on Jews around the world. And we're seeing the results of us allowing them to do that playing out in real time. We're seeing academic institutions banning Jewish groups, not allowing them on campus. We are seeing Jews hiding their Jewish identity because they are afraid of being attacked. We see synagogues spending millions and millions of dollars, and Jewish schools also spending millions and millions of dollars upgrading their security because schools and synagogues are being shot at, are being threatened, are being protested in front of. We see protests after protest after protest, with people being able to say whatever they want and incite whatever violence they want against Jews. And when Jews get up to counter those people, they are the ones who are arrested. We see this over and over and over again, playing out again and again and again, right across Canada. And yet we sit back idly. Our leadership, our Jewish leadership, sits back idly, saying, "Hey, listen, sei still." It's an old philosophy. This sei still philosophy. Keep quiet. Old philosophy. Keep quiet. If you don't stir up the pot and you don't fight back, they'll leave us alone. They'll get tired of us. They'll move on to someone else. That was the philosophy of European Jews. And right before the Holocaust, that was the philosophy of the European Jews that came to North America after the Holocaust. Don't rock the boat and they'll leave us alone. That doesn't work anymore. We can't live by that philosophy anymore. If we don't rock the boat, they will kill us. The radical Islamists are out to kill us. Now, call me an alarmist, call me whatever you want. I don't care. That is the honest truth of what's happening. And that is why we need to be able to protect ourselves, or we need a concerted effort to move the populations, the Jewish populations, out of danger. It is our responsibility. We are our brother's keepers. It is our responsibility to take care of each other. We're one big happy family, aren't we? At least we're supposed to be. But are we really? I don't know. All I know is that our Jewish leadership is failing us. All I know is our Jewish leadership is sitting by and not allowing Jews or encouraging Jews to take to the streets, to say, we're not going to take this, to say, we're going to stand up for ourselves, and we are not going to be cowed by anybody. Now, last time I spoke tough like this, and I've been speaking tough like this on this show for 30 years. When I spoke tough like this 10, 15 years ago, the Federation refused to even talk to me. They didn't want to have anything to do with me. When they came to the radio station that I was working at the time, they forced me off my own show. They brought a guest host into my own show to interview the president of the Federation because he refused to sit in the room with me. Because he was afraid of the kind of questions I would ask him. Questions like, and same questions I'm asking today that I would ask back then, I have the exact same questions. Nothing has changed in 15, 20 years. It's the same questions. Why are Jews not in the streets screaming and yelling? Why has Federation, the voice of the Jewish community, as they call themselves? And these same questions would be asked of B'nai B'rith too, by the way. But the question is, why are Jews not being encouraged to go into the streets and protest? To go into the streets and say, we are taking back the streets. We are not afraid of you. Why are we not seriously pressuring through protest again, thousands and thousands of people on the street, really, send a message? Why are we not pressuring our politicians? Why are we relying on backdoor politics rather than on front door aggression? We should be aggressive with our politicians. We should be, not physically aggressive, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we should rough them up. What I'm saying is that we should be protesting aggressively against their policies. When Mark Carney made an announcement in Davos that he had made a strategic alliance with Qatar, Canadian Jews should have been on the streets screaming, "We don't support terror, neither should our government." Yet we remain quiet. We remain silent. We just spend millions and millions of dollars fixing our security systems, upgrading our security systems. Why do we do that? Why do we accept the fact that our synagogues have to be guarded? Why do we accept the fact that we are the only religion in the world that needs armed guards at our synagogue entrances? Why are we the only religion in the world that has to hide our religious symbols when we go out on the streets in France? Why are we the only religion in the world where students in Montreal are afraid to go to school wearing their religious symbols? Why are we the only people in the world who, when are attacked and murdered, the world shrugs? No condemnations, no sympathy, no empathy. You're Jews. You deserve it. Why are we the only people in the world who are attacked continuously by the media? And these people aren't shut down or canceled or fired. You attack anybody else, and that's what happens to you. It's just shocking to me. It's just amazing to me that Jews have fallen to such disregard in North America and in Europe and around the world that they're an open target for everyone, from politicians to thugs and everyone in between. Now, if that doesn't scare you enough, and that should scare you plenty, but if that doesn't scare you enough, just think about the people who used to support Israel, the politicians and the journalists that used to support Israel, the talk show hosts that used to support Israel, who now don't. Famous people like Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owen, who used to stand tall, who have shriveled down to anti-Jewish, anti-Israel conspiracy theorists. It's sad. It's really sad. But that's where we're at the moment. That's where the Jewish community is at the moment. Now, I get a lot of pressure to not do this show. And when I don't come on, and it's been a while since I've been on, There's various reasons why that happened, why there's gaps between the shows. It's been a while since I've been on, but when I'm pressured not to come on, and it happens a lot where I get calls and I get pressured not to come on and say these things by Jewish leadership, so-called Jewish leadership. I don't think it's very Jewish to sit in our houses and not express ourselves, to accept the world as it is. I think it's our job to shed light. When there was an attack on Jews in Bondi Beach in Australia, there should have been mass protests right around the world. Jewish communities should have been out on the street protesting, like every other community does when their people are killed anywhere. When we don't protest, when we don't get on the street, when we don't demonstrate, we are showing a weakness. We are showing weakness of unity. We are showing weakness of togetherness. We are showing that we don't care about our brethren and our people around the world. And when we meet in our synagogues and have our protests in our synagogues surrounded by police and security and metal detectors and dogs, we are showing weakness. We are showing fear. Of course, we don't want to get blown up. We don't want our people to be hurt, God forbid. But we are showing fear. We are letting the terrorists win. And we've been doing that for a long time, letting the terrorists win. The terrorists have won. We were the victims of October 7th. And suddenly the media and the Arab propagandists and the Jewish Arab apologists have turned Israel into the aggressor rather than the victim. Now, in all of humanity, when somebody's attacked, they've always had the right to defend themselves and fight back. That has been the right of everybody in all of humanity. Everybody except for Israel. We saw it over and over again, 1948, 1956, 1967. Every time Israel's attacked, there's always somebody out there who's going to say, hey, wait a second. They had no right to attack. And Israel's the only country. And let me be clear. I'm talking about Israel because Israel's the Jewish state. State of Jews. And Israel's only held to this impossible standard, this crazy standard, because it's Jewish. No other country in the world is held to the same standard. So when Israel's attacked and they fight off their enemies and they conquer land, that land becomes disputed territory. When any other country is attacked and fights off enemies and conquers land, that land gets annexed and that land is considered part of that country, the spoils of war. But Israel doesn't get spoils of war. They never did. The Jews don't ever win. They can't be the victors. They always have to be the victims. And this is where we're at. They always have to be the aggressors. They can never be the victims. That's what I meant to say. And so here we're at. We're at a situation where the people of Israel, who are separate from the Jewish people of the diaspora, have suddenly been merged together. Diaspora and Israel have been merged together in the minds of the Jew haters. And I don't think this has happened too many times in the past. I don't think this happened very much in the past. But now, the hatred of Israel has turned into the hatred of Jews. And people perpetrating the hatred of Israel, people promoting it, people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen, are promoting attacks on Jews around the world. Now, I don't know if they're intentionally doing that. I don't know if they want to promote the attacks on Jews or they just want to criticize Israel because we're journalists, we can do that. Whatever their motive is, the end result is more important than their intentions. The end result is that Jews are being attacked around the world, and they are contributing to the rhetoric that is causing that. That is the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that when people are yelling globalized intifada. They are yelling for the attack on Jews. And when people like Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson agree with those people, say they have the First Amendment right to say what they want in the States, there has to be a limit, doesn't there? I remember years ago, I got up and I gave a speech at a B'nai B'rith rally that I had. We had a weekly pro-Israel rally in front of the Israeli consulate. And I got up and gave a speech on a megaphone. And one of the police officers that was standing there came to me and said to me, "Hey, Howie, you got to calm down your rhetoric because you are almost inciting a riot. And if I feel that you're inciting a riot, I will arrest you for inciting a riot." And I looked at the guy and I said, "I'm just expressing my opinion. I'm an opinion speaker, and that's what I do. I've done this for years. And I'm just expressing my opinion." And he said, "It's illegal in Canada, or anywhere actually," he says, "to incite a riot. And to incite a race riot, it's even more illegal." Really? Then why is it okay for people to yell, "Burn the Jews," or attack the Jews, or globalized intifada? Why is that okay? Because the Jew's not yelling it? Because the Jew's on the receiving end rather than the giving end? Is that what it is? Because if that is the case, then saying that the world has become increasingly more anti-Jewish, including the police and our politicians, is not a false narrative. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's the truth. And let me ask you this. When Jews get up and fight back, like Mayor Weinstein did in Toronto, when an anti-Jewish speaker was speaking and he got up to try to block people from going in and got arrested for it, why is that okay? Why is it not okay for Mayor to express his opinion? Why is it not okay for me to express my opinion? And why is it that any time a Jew gets arrested, there's always some Jewish organization, or so-called Jewish organization, that's going to get up and applaud it? It makes very little sense to me, but that's really the way it works. That's the way it is. Now, maybe you could explain it to me. Maybe you understand it, because I really don't, and I never have. And I've been making this argument for years because I don't understand how it works. Nobody's been kind enough to explain it to me. But at the end of the day, what I do know is it fractures the Jewish community, and it lets good people who would protest and who would be leaders, it lets them stay away. It makes them stay away because they don't want to be involved in this corruption. When your leadership is chosen by the size of their pocketbook rather than by their activism and by their commitment to the Jewish cause, you know you have a problem. And unfortunately, that is the way leadership, community leadership, is chosen. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, that we stepped up. It's time that we became more active. It's time that we decided that enough is enough, that we're not going to put up with this. It's time that we said, that's it. We're getting on the streets. We're protesting. We don't care what anyone has to say. We are taking back the streets. We are not going to be afraid. We are putting on our kippas. We are putting on our Magen Davids. We are walking around with our Jewish symbols out. We are opening up our Jewish clubs, and we are going to be happy, healthy, and strong people. And whoever doesn't like it, too darn bad. It's time we all said that. As a community, there's a power in numbers. And as a community, we should get up and say that. And our organization should say, we really just don't care what anyone thinks about this. And if we get attacked, and we will, that's fine. Then we should learn how to fight back. Every single Jew should learn martial arts and learn how to fight back. We can't be cowards and we can't be lambs led to the slaughter. We've seen that movie. We know what the results of it are. It's time to wake up. It's time to realize that if we don't take our own safety in our own hands, nobody else will. Nobody cares about us. We have to start caring about ourselves and each other. I know it's a sad thing to think about, a sad thing to say, but it's the gosh darn honest truth. And I'm sorry to have to say it. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show on TrueTalkRadio.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again next show.